Welcome, everyone, to Innovator Spotlight, where we meet remarkable people and solutions in the cybersecurity industry. I'm Armstead Whitney, your host, and I am CEO of Aptega, and I'm really excited to be hosting today's session with Jeffrey Crump. He's got some incredible products and solutions in his portfolio, from employee awareness training to some really cool stuff around incident and crisis response. And he's going to introduce something about incident response maturity, which I'm really excited to hear about. So, Jeffrey, thanks for joining us today.
That's my pleasure, Armistead. I'm excited to have a conversation with you.
All right, so we have it up on the screen. So I'm really curious. What is incident response maturity?
Yeah, so we know traditional incident response. It's that those activities that a security operations center or a managed security service provider. It's those things, those triage activities that those analysts perform. Those traditionally fail to kind of address the cross-organizational aspects that really need to kind of come together when you're dealing with a high severity incident. So when you don't have that integrated type of approach, or the planning and preparation, then you end up with a delayed, chaotic, unstructured and fragmented type of incident response. And so what we provide is a series of kind of maturity moments for incident response as they move into what we call cyber crisis management.
So you don't want to be learning how to respond to a crisis during the crisis.
Generally not. I mean, it is a learning moment, but you definitely feel a bit more confident when you go into those, with some mental muscle memory to draw on, for sure.
So as you talk to your clients around incident response, is it just the IT team that you're focusing on training, or are there other people in the organization that need to be involved in incident response planning?
Yeah, it's that beyond technology, right? We know technology has to be represented and they're a core part of what's happening, but they're certainly not the only thing, right? If you have a data breach, you need to have your privacy organization. You're certainly going to have your general counsel, your legal group there. You're going to have your core business units. Depending upon what's involved, are there credit cards or banking? You might have a bank information security office, or you might have a local market entity. So it can be very vast, just kind of depending upon how big and complex your organization is. And if you don't think through what that looks like, and what are those really those what we call functional incident response plans, what those activities, those core business units or functions need to do, then you're going to struggle. And so the idea is that we help the organizations build these plans, which is kind of a plan of plans, and then ensure the leadership has the skills to kind of lead in those situations. And then there's a whole process of conducting exercises, whether they're tabletop exercises, discussion-based types of things, or deeper immersions where we're bringing together a virtual type of a threat environment where that's emulating the client's technology and setup, and you can have a red versus blue type of an activity going on. And then on the other side, you've got this crisis leadership team that's coming together, and they're trying to manage the organizational response. What are we going to do about this Twitter storm outbreak that's occurring, or the public threats from the hacker that they're about to release information, right? That is not a technology solve, that's a business solve, right? So those two worlds are going on at the same time. We know that, but during the exercise, we certainly want to kind of stress test those things and identify any gaps and opportunities for excellence or improvement.
Are you also including natural disasters? So sort of anything that could disrupt the operations of a company?
So it depends on oftentimes the organization or the regulators themselves. So for example, in Canada, one of their regulators has kind of expanded the scope of what they expect to see around incident response, and they say technology and cybersecurity incident response. So when you go into the technology side, we really do consider that an operational kind of risk event, right? Which is different than a purely security data, purely security non-data, it is that same kind of an outage. So we do work with some customers to make sure that the plan itself has adequate coverage in there, but it really just does, it does depend upon the client. Some of them have, already some coverage, or they may rely on their, unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion around business continuity. Yep. And how that fits in. This is not the same. It is very different from a business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, even to the point. And one of the regulators in India, the Bank of India, who's the central bank there, they call out specifically that there's this need for this cyber crisis management plan, and they make a specific reference about this is not the same as your business continuity plan, right?
Right.
So yeah, you need those things. You definitely want to consider the natural disasters, but it's up to the client to kind of drive, where we go with that plan development. The great thing is that the framework itself is designed to accommodate those things, those kind of, nuances.
So as you're planning these incident response programs, are there certain threats you're seeing recently that you think should be front and center to be included, in these programs, that the threat actors are really kind of ramping up?
Yeah, obviously the big, well, we've had the big supply chain stuff, right? So there's always a good conversation around supply chain security, but, ransomware, excuse me, my lights are on, sustainability in the building, sometimes the lights go off. But the ransomware, and we now have guidance from the U.S. Around can you make payments to certain entities, and so that's an entire discussion that needs to go on around. Well, what if we are victim of a threat actor that's on a designated list, and we're theoretically prohibited from actually making a ransomware payment. And though, our entire business is, if we don't do this, we could not exist going forward, right? We don't. So how do you, there are things that can be done. We know, it's not impossible to get around that, but you have to kind of think through that process. And whether you're in Canada, the US, or India, or Russia, yeah. Everyone's going to have kind of a different opinion about what kind of actions you can take, but absolutely supply chain, is a big part of that. So if you've got business unit, if you've got your corporate entity in one place and you've got manufacturing and whole supply chain in a different part of the world, you really do need to kind of treat that as certainly from a holistic perspective, from a cyber crisis management planning perspective. But you also have to understand that there's a local component of that mind and matter of there that you have to take into consideration, right? There's going to be people on the ground that may have some role in this response, right? So you have to think through how do they get kind of plug and played into that enterprise response, and who owns that relationship. And it's on the surface it makes feel like a trivial pursuit, but it can be absolutely a very involved and complex solve for clients.
Well, I can't wait to see.
That's why it's a maturity moment, right? We're getting past the easy stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see your solutions. I'd love to stop sharing my screen, turn it over to you. You got some virtual stuff you said you might show us, so I'm gonna just stop share here and let you pick up the screen.
All right.
I'm glad you're here.
Perfect.
Just speaking with Sally about some concerning events her team in incident response is actively investigating. We have some urgent issues to deal with. Since you are the Chief Information Security Officer, we are looking at you for leadership.
It appears we have had an advanced persistent threat in our environment for possibly up to 4 months. Our investigation reveals an employee was victim to a spear phishing attack.
It now appears that more than 4 million customer records are for sale on the dark web.
The malware established communication with a command and control server, which directed the malware to move laterally within our environment. It appears the malware morphs itself because although we know it has spread, we can't locate the malicious software in our environment aside from a few locations.
Not less than 10 minutes ago, I received phone calls from both government regulators and 2 national media outlets. What should we do?
So the idea here is there's lots of different facets, obviously, to leadership, right? And we know that the non-routine leadership doesn't work in non-routine, or the routine leadership doesn't really work in a non-routine situation. And so even though, these may seem, this part of the questionnaire is about it's problem solving, right? But the real takeaway when we get into the program and the core aspects of what we teach in the leadership program is about sense making, right?
Hey, so Jeffrey, yeah, your audio is really distorted again. So maybe why don't we pick it back up again?
Yeah, let me change the mic.
Yeah, so change it back, and then because I think that just pick it up whenever you want with this guy's on the screen. That's fine. I just want to make sure it was good audio.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
Yeah. So when you look at this, your first response is going to be, I'm going to make a decision, right? I'm going to solve this problem, and that really kind of speaks to the core piece of our leadership program, and that those kinds of problem solving skills, although they're valuable in a non-routine situation, what we really want is for you to move from being a problem solver to a sense maker. There's lots of stuff going on here, right? And it's a question of, are you ready to make a decision, right? Or do you really need to go get some more information, right? Before you can kind of go through that process. And so, there's this choose your adventure, and there's lots of different types of immersion pieces to kind of support the learning objectives in the crisis leadership piece. But this is, a fun little piece where people can kind of go through and just, get a taste of some aspects of what this part of the program offers.
All right. So what's the right answer with these 5?
Well,
they all look good to me.
I hate to give it away, give it. Is there a right answer? You learn this. That's part of the process. It's
Got it.
Sense. You have enough information to make a decision, right? Are you ready to issue a press release given what you've learned?
So this is a virtual course that you'll be offering.
This is a virtual reality immersion that is a component within our cyber crisis management leadership professional certification course.
Got it.
So we use this, because it's important to have this, a safe environment, for people to make, decisions, just to see, well, what might a different perspective be, or how did I make that decision? Why did I make that decision? How could I maybe done something a little different? Did I have enough information? Do I need more, make more sense of what's happening? To kind of, get people kind of past that, again, that beyond the problem solver of our routine leadership into a sense maker for non-routine leadership.
Very, very cool. Thanks for showing that to us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, if you want to wrap up your demo section, I'll take everybody to go see what you look like in CyberXchange.
Yeah, no, I think we're
good to you?
Go. Yeah, I think we're all set. Yep, that's.
All right. Well, I'll just grab the screen back, and we'll go take a quick look at cybersecurity solutions in CyberXchange. So, CyberXchange is a platform that is available to anybody that's looking for, best-in-class solutions to build great cybersecurity and compliance. And you can find solution providers through categories. You can, select a framework. You can find providers by a drop-down. I've gone ahead and just pulled up cybersecurity training and consulting, inside kind of a private marketplace. And here we see all of your solutions. And today we focused a lot on incident response. You've also got some cybersecurity awareness training. And so, anyone who's interested in your solutions can just click your tile, and looks like you got a nice, a really cool video here that will talk about your solutions in more detail, which is really great. Love the animation.
Yeah, it's trying to demonstrate, helping people understand the whole cyber crisis management plan, concept and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You've written a lot of books on the topic, so I would say you were definitely a professional and can work in almost any environment. Here we talk about some of the product specifications. I guess it's a question for you is, what size companies do you typically work with? Is it only large enterprises, or do you work with small to mid-sized businesses too?
No, yeah, I mean, everybody can benefit from it. It's, the amount of effort. You think about, if you're a small company, you're certainly not immune from a ransomware attack that will bring your company to its knees, right? It doesn't matter how big you are, right? It's the nature of that. Now, some organizations, they will have very large plans, but what we do is we work with them to compress the actionable stuff to a very small amount. And then there's just a bunch of supporting stuff, templates, checklists, that, reference stuff. But for any organization, it's valuable, but they just may not have a whole ton of stuff in the supporting. But to have, a plan and, the invaluable, we as part of the process, we build something called quick reference cards for people to play these key roles. And it's that double-sided single piece of laminate, that is the cheat sheet. It's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. What were we supposed to do? Right. And then they can just pull that up. And so you can imagine any size organization would benefit from that kind of tool to have it, at their hand, when something bad does go bad. But yeah, large organizations for sure, financial services, heavily regulated industries will see, because they're getting the regulators that are telling them, thou shalt have these kinds of plans. Their board will have visibility into this stuff and have a role.
Well, all the major frameworks, that a lot of companies are following, HIPAA, PCI, CMMC, they all have incident management, incident response requirements, and companies have to fill those gaps in their programs. And just having a piece of paper is not enough. Having, a 5-page incident response plan that you download as a template is probably not enough. And so I encourage anybody interested in, really having a true incident response program, to give Jeffrey and his team a call. And again, just go to Cyber Exchange and you'll find all this great information. But we really appreciate your time, Jeffrey. Thanks for showing us some of the cool things you're working on. And we really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you down the future with all your success.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Armistead. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks again. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon on the next Innovator Spotlight. Take care.